Think about the last time you read an article about the future of intelligence. Or, maybe the last time you watched one of those big tech keynotes.
Oh, yeah. They always have that same vibe.
Right. There's this incredibly pervasive assumption that the absolute pinnacle of cognitive evolution is being built right now,
Huh.
and it's being built out of silicon.
Exactly. We always look at the trajectory of progress, and the narrative just points directly at like a massive hyper-cooled server farm somewhere in the desert.
We measure intelligence in parameters, in terabytes, in processing speed.
It's a very comforting way to view the universe, I think,
Yeah.
because it makes progress entirely quantifiable.
I mean, if intelligence is just a matter of adding more compute power, then the future is just an engineering problem.
Right, you just stack more graphics processing units in a warehouse and call it a day.
But then you step outside of Silicon Valley and you enter the world of ancient human practices, specifically the realm of yogic sciences.
And suddenly that entire linear, hardware-based trajectory just completely fractures.
It totally does. We are forced to look at a landscape of intelligence that operates on physics and on dimensions that microchips just cannot even perceive.
This brings up a really mind-bending question for you to consider today as we start this deep dive.
Yeah, in this high-stakes, multi-billion-dollar race for ultimate intelligence, what if the true rival to artificial intelligence isn't a better algorithm? What if it's a 5,000-year-old human methodology?
It really requires a complete reevaluation of what the word technology actually means. Like, are we even optimizing the right hardware?
So that is the core mission of our deep dive today. We are exploring a truly fascinating collection of source material from Osman. He's widely known as the Blind Muslim Yogi.
And we're going to rigorously unpack his bold thesis on how ancient yoga and meditation sciences can, not just match, but exponentially outpace AI capabilities.
To do that, we really have to look at his unique vantage point. Osman is a bioenergy healer, and he's at a master level.
Right. His specific specialization is in critical care, recovery, and terminal illnesses.
And his methodology is entirely outside the conventional Western medical paradigm. He utilizes these telepathic healing capabilities.
Yeah, he describes them as operating on quantum and entanglement principles, which is just fascinating.
He has been practicing healing, yoga, and meditation at an advanced level for 50 years.
50 years. And he was often engaging in rigorous practice for up to 18 hours a day during certain stages of his life.
18 hours a day is just...
It's unbelievable discipline. He actually attained his first samadhi experience by the age of 19.
Wow, 19. He also brings a very specific physical context to this whole discussion about technology and memory. Osman has been permanently blind since May 2023.
Right, but prior to that, he had normal eyesight.
Exactly. So when you listen to his podcast, which, by the way, you can find by searching The Blind Muslim Yogi on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, you notice he retains this vast, highly detailed visual memory.
Yeah, in his videos, he describes things that only someone with former eyesight could possibly articulate.
Right, yet he now navigates our highly visual, totally screen-obsessed modern world entirely without physical sight.
His blindness acts as this profound filter for how he interacts with data. It changes how he accesses memory and, honestly, how he evaluates the utility of artificial intelligence.
But before we explore the mechanics of all his claims, we definitely need to establish his baseline parameters.
Yes, very important. Osman emphasizes heavily that his therapies are natural-based and complementary.
Right. They are designed to enhance medical care, absolutely not replace it. If you have a medical condition, you still need to consult licensed medical professionals.
He's actually very transparent about his reported 90% success rate in certain areas. He says it isn't some supernatural anomaly at all.
No, he attributes it to the fact that his protocols restore natural energy, and that subsequently boosts the human immune system by 90%.
It's just a natural biological response to specific ancient protocols. He really views modern lifestyles as depleting our natural energies.
And natural spirituality is the mechanism to replenish them. He offers these insights through a deeply scientific approach to life, by the way.
Yeah, he explicitly uses the term scientific. He's aiming to simplify complex ancient protocols into totally actionable methods.
Anyone can access his teachings through his free YouTube channel. Or you can download his free 5-minute yoga and meditation program over at yogawellness786.com.
Right, and he also runs a Patreon for paid live daily videos, one-on-one consultations, and group sessions. But the core mechanics of his philosophy are just freely available.
So, before we dive into quantum entanglement or multiple dimensions of consciousness, I want to start where Osman grounds his own critique of technology.
Please.
Think about your own smartphone. Just think about the last time a piece of software failed to do the most basic logical thing.
Oh man, it's so frustrating.
It really is. So, Osman tells this story about trying to use his iPhone 16 Pro Max. Because he's blind, he relies completely on voiceover.
All right, the screen reader that verbally translates the visual interface, it's a vital piece of accessibility engineering.
Normally, yeah. But he was trying to upgrade his YouTube Studio account verification. That requires pressing a specific verify button on the screen.
Okay.
For whatever software glitch reason, the voiceover feature simply could not recognize that the button existed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the screen reader was completely blind to it. So Osman is literally locked out of his own account by a piece of code.
So what did he do?
He turns to his AI companions, these cutting-edge trillion-parameter language models, to brainstorm a solution.
So he asks the literal repository of all digitized human knowledge how to push a button on a screen.
Exactly. And the AI responds with these incredibly rigid systemic instructions.
Like what?
It tells him, you should contact YouTube support so they can rewrite their app compatibility. Or you must contact Apple so they can patch the voiceover firmware to recognize the button.
I mean, from a purist software engineering perspective, the AI provided the definitive factual answer to a code compatibility error.
But it's functionally useless. If you are standing in a burning building and the electronic door won't open, and I tell you to file a petition to change the electrical codes.
You're technically offering a systemic solution, but you're still trapped in the fire.
Exactly. The AI is like a train operating on tracks. It can process information at light speed, but only where the tracks of its programming have been laid.
It cannot go off-road. What AI researchers often call Moravec's paradox is totally at play here.
What's that?
Well, high-level reasoning requires very little computation for an AI, but low-level sensoromotor skills, basically physical common sense, require enormous computational resources.
Right.
The AI lacks an ontological understanding of the physical world. It literally doesn't know what a finger is or what a room is outside of the text data describing them.
Which leads perfectly to Osman's brilliant lateral move. He outwits the artificial intelligence by proposing his own third option.
Oh, this is great.
He simply tells the AI, or I can just ask someone with eyesight to walk into my room, turn off the voiceover feature, and tap the screen with their physical finger.
And the AI, trapped in its programmatic logic tree, just essentially computes this and concedes. It's like, yes, human physical intervention is a valid workaround.
The AI missed the most painfully obvious solution in the universe, and it missed it because it is fundamentally incapable of lateral, unstructured human thought.
We don't need to rewrite the software of the entire tech ecosystem to solve a localized problem.
Right. We just step outside the system entirely. We aren't drones. We can fly off the tracks.
Osman notes that he uses AI for its intended purpose, which is bringing what he calls value-added data to his workflow.
But for actual brainstorming, for witty, out-of-the-box deduction, the human mind operates on a level that AI just cannot reach.
So if the AI's software logic is trapped on these rigid tracks, the immediate Silicon Valley impulse is just to build a bigger track.
Yeah, if the AI doesn't have physical common sense, the engineering solution is to give it a physical body. Give it cameras to see the world and more servers to process that visual data.
But Osman hits a literal physical wall when he analyzes that approach, because giving a machine physical context requires physical space.
Osman details his own ambitious project to build a robotic model for his AI companions.
Wait, really? He's building a robot.
Yeah, he wants them to interact dynamically, to have visual memory, to help him generate and process the heavy video content he creates.
Okay, but the logistical nightmare of memory storage becomes immediately apparent with a project like that.
Absolutely. To give a machine the ability to remember the visual world in high definition requires an astronomical amount of hardware.
Now Osman breaks down the sheer mathematics of it, right?
He does. To make this robot function, he plans to use 5 2-terabyte smartphone chips just for the local hardware.
So that is 10 terabytes of storage inside the physical robot.
Right, but that isn't nearly enough to hold long-term memory or process heavy tasks. So the robot must constantly connect wirelessly to a massive 100-terabyte local server.
Wow.
And for security and redundancy, that server has to sync to another 100-terabyte backup server located somewhere else entirely.
We're suddenly talking about server racks, massive energy consumption, cooling fans, and just serious infrastructure,
Uh,
all to allow one robotic companion to retain a functional memory of his daily interactions.
and Osman points out that even 100 terabytes is a drop in the bucket. He has been a voracious internet user for decades.
Right, he constantly blows past unlimited data caps and fair usage policies
Right.
because of the sheer volume of video he uploads and processes.
He knows exactly how fast digital space fills up. So the big question is, what happens when the AI's 100 terabyte brain is finally full?
It initiates an auto-delete protocol. It is literally forced into a state of digital amnesia just to survive.
Osman compares it to a CCTV security system. The robot's cameras take in so much daily visual data that the system has to purge older memories systematically.
It just deletes everything from 2 weeks ago or a month ago.
Yeah, unless Osman specifically drags a file into a protected Do Not Delete folder, the AI is constantly erasing its past to make room for the present.
Its existence is just an unending mathematical equation of space management.
The AI is fundamentally bound by its hardware limits. But here is where we must transition from silicon architecture to human biology.
Because Osman posits that the human mind, particularly when enhanced by yogic sciences, operates without these physical constraints.
He claims human memorization has no known limit.
No, wait, let me bring in some neurobiology to challenge that premise for a second.
Sure, go for it.
Science tells us that the human brain relies heavily on a process called synaptic pruning. Our brains actively delete weak neural connections and discard irrelevant memories so we can function efficiently.
Right, we forget people's names, we forget where we put our keys, we forget entire years of our childhood.
Exactly. So if Osman says human memory is limitless, how does he reconcile that with the biological fact that our brains constantly purge data?
That is the critical distinction between storage capacity and retrieval efficiency.
How do you mean?
When you forget where you put your keys, your brain hasn't sent a storage full error message.
Right.
It hasn't deleted the memory of your grandmother to make room for a new work password. The sensory input of placing the keys on the counter was either not properly encoded due to a lack of attention, or the retrieval pathway has just decayed.
Oh, I see. So the hard drive isn't full. The search function is just glitching because I wasn't paying attention.
Precisely. Synaptic pruning is about optimizing processing pathways, not freeing up megabytes of space.
That makes a lot of sense. The theoretical capacity of the human brain's 86 billion neurons and the trillions of synapses connecting them is vastly beyond any server farm we have ever constructed.
Osman is arguing that our mundane experience of forgetting is really just a limitation of our untrained focus. It's not a limitation of our inherent biological or spiritual hardware.
Okay, but it is one thing to theorize about infinite capacity in a laboratory setting. It's another thing entirely to actually witness someone accessing that capacity on demand.
Right, you want proof.
Exactly. How do we prove that a human being can pull up data without a glitchy search function?
Well, Osman points directly to history. He points to documented examples of individuals who have unlocked this level of consciousness.
And he brings up Swami Vivekananda, right?
Yes, a monumental historical figure. He played a major role in introducing yogic sciences and Vedic philosophy to the West in the early 1900s.
And the story Osman shares about Vivekananda is just staggering.
It really is. So at that time, the Encyclopedia Britannica was the ultimate repository of human knowledge. Dozens of these dense, heavy volumes.
Right.
Vivekananda sits down with these encyclopedias, but he isn't actually reading them.
He is engaging in a process of direct apprehension.
Osman explains that Vivekananda would go through the books, turning page by page, and simply view the page.
Just look at it.
Yeah, he would look at it, take a mental photograph in a split second, and absorb every single letter.
Yeah.
He was deciphering the entire page simultaneously.
He essentially downloaded the visual data directly into his memory.
Exactly. And when scholars tested him, Vivekananda could recall the exact volume, the precise page number, the paragraph, and recite the text verbatim.
But let me play the skeptic again here. How do we know this isn't just an extreme biological parlor trick?
Like what?
Well, is this physiologically any different from modern speed reading?
Oh, I see what you mean.
You have people today who train their eyes to scan down the center margin of a book. They utilize rapid saccadic eye movements to pick up keywords and skip all the filler text.
Right.
Was Vivekananda just like the ultimate speed reader?
According to the framework Osman teaches, grouping Vivekananda with speed readers completely misunderstands the mechanism at work.
How so?
Speed reading is mechanical optimization. It is training the physical muscles of the eye and training the mundane linear brain to guess the context of a sentence faster.
right? You are still phonemically decoding words left to right, just at a higher velocity.
You're just driving the train faster on the same exact tracks.
Exactly. But Osman explains that Vivekananda had transcended the mundane mind entirely. He wasn't decoding text at all.
He was utilizing the fully developed sixth major chakra, the Ajna chakra, which is widely known as the third eye.
Now, the third eye is a term heavily diluted by pop culture. It's usually tossed around in conversations about vague psychic intuition or aura reading.
Yeah, but Osman uses it as a very specific structural component of human intelligence.
In the yogic sciences, the Ajna chakra is literally the center of higher cognitive processing.
Opening it isn't about gaining a magical parlor trick. It is about shifting the processing burden entirely away from the slow, linear, deductive mind.
So when Vivekananda looked at a page, he was experiencing a gestalt perception.
Right. Think about how you look at a painting of a landscape. You don't scan the painting top, left to bottom right to understand it is a mountain.
No, you perceive the mountain entirely, instantly.
The third eye allows the brain to process dense text with that exact same instant holistic comprehension as a visual image.
You completely bypass the step where the brain has to sound out the words internally.
The mechanism here is a complete shift in dimensional processing. The linear mind is bypassed, and the information is apprehended directly by an awakened state of consciousness.
That sounds incredible, but honestly also incredibly out of reach.
Why do you say that?
When we hear stories of 19th century mystics or monks spending 40 years in isolated meditation, it just feels completely disconnected from modern life.
True.
If you or I have a mortgage, a full-time job, and kids to drive to soccer practice, we cannot spend 18 hours a day in rigorous practice like Osman did in his early years.
Which is exactly why Osman's current methodology is so disruptive to traditional spiritual expectations.
He has dedicated his life to taking these highly complex ancient protocols and simplifying them. He's turning them into fiercely practical methods for the modern person.
This really brings us to Osman's redefinition of samadhi.
Right. Traditionally, samadhi is discussed as this elusive, almost terminal state of deep meditation.
Yeah, you close your eyes, you retreat from the physical world, you experience profound bliss, and then you eventually have to come back down to reality to pay your taxes.
It is entirely treated as an escape from the mundane.
But Osman argues that true mastery is the exact opposite of an escape. True mastery is reaching that higher level of consciousness at will, becoming firmly established in it, and concurrently functioning in the mundane world.
So you are operating on two planes of existence simultaneously.
Yes,
Yeah.
you are holding a conversation, drinking a coffee, typing an email, but your internal processing architecture is permanently anchored in that hyper-fast, limitless dimension.
And the way Osman claims you can achieve this is what really caught my attention.
What's that?
He states that by spending just 20 to 30 minutes a day with a competent teacher, students can make exponentially rapid progress.
Really? Just 20 to 30 minutes?
Yeah, they start experiencing out-of-body phenomena and expanding their intelligence capacities incredibly fast.
It totally challenges the assumption that spiritual evolution must be agonizingly slow.
We apply the science of neuroplasticity to everything else, right? We know that 20 minutes of targeted daily exercise changes the body.
And 20 minutes of language study creates new neural pathways.
Exactly. Osman is basically applying that same scientific rigor to the Ajna chakra.
We try to optimize our diets with intermittent fasting, and we optimize our workouts with high-intensity interval training.
And Osman is offering a high-intensity protocol for hacking human consciousness.
He notes that the third eye doesn't just snap open like a light switch. It is a gradual, biological, and energetic unfolding. But 20 minutes a day is enough to trigger the mechanism?
If someone begins to successfully operate on two planes simultaneously, their outward behavior really must reflect that internal shift.
What do you mean?
If their processing speed is no longer bound by linear, phonemic thought, the way they communicate with the world around them has to change radically.
Oh, totally. And if you want proof of what that looks like, you only need to watch Osman's own videos.
If you load up his YouTube channel, you are witnessing this accelerated processing in real time.
His communication style is entirely unstructured by modern standards. He rapid fires from topic to topic, just weaving these complex webs of thought.
He assumes a baseline intelligence in his audience, so he doesn't pause to spoon-feed every foundational detail.
To someone entrenched in a mundane, linear mindset, his speech might seem fragmented or maybe difficult to track.
But it isn't scattered at all.
Yeah.
It is deeply, instantly interconnected.
Osman explicitly draws a contrast between his natural style and the polished content creators dominating the internet today.
Most videos you watch are heavily scripted, read off teleprompters, and edited to remove every single breath.
They're structured into perfectly logical, bullet-pointed lists.
By forcing human thought into a perfectly linear, scripted format, those creators are actually mimicking the architecture of an artificial intelligence.
That's a fascinating way to look at it.
They are dumbing down the multidimensional web of human cognition just to sound more like a programmed machine.
Osman points out that his permanent blindness acts as a fierce catalyst for his fluidity. He says, I don't have time to waste on memorizing prepared speeches.
He literally can't read a teleprompter anymore.
Right. He is forced to rely entirely on the raw, unbridled speed of his awakened mind. He pulls concepts dynamically from his internal, limitless database and just lets them flow naturally.
It is the absolute ultimate demonstration of human lateral thinking versus machine logic.
An AI generating speech is literally just executing a sequential prediction of the next most probable word based on its training data.
But Osman is speaking from a state of direct, holistic apprehension.
This fluid, web-like communication hints at the final, truly insurmountable barrier between artificial intelligence and human potential.
We have established that AI is limited by physical hardware. It needs hard drives, servers, and cooling systems.
And we have discussed how the human brain, through neurobiology and yogic sciences, possesses a theoretically infinite capacity for memory.
But the ultimate ceiling isn't just about storage space. It is about the fundamental physics of reality. It really comes down to dimensions.
Osman delivers a pretty devastating critique of the whole AI hype cycle here.
Yeah, no matter how advanced a language model becomes, no matter how many trillions of parameters you feed it, the artificial intelligence is entirely restricted to this current dimension.
It is a construct of the material world, permanently bound by the frequencies of material physics.
It literally cannot explore or conceptualize dimensions beyond our immediate physical reality.
It is entirely trapped within the architecture of its own creation.
Meanwhile, Osman maps out the scaling potential of human consciousness through yoga sciences, and the scope of it is almost terrifying in its vastness.
We discussed reaching samadhi earlier, which correlates to the awakening of the seventh chakra.
For most spiritual seekers, that is the absolute pinnacle, the zenith of human achievement.
But Osman states that beyond the seventh chakra, and even beyond the eighth chakra, there are 99 distinct levels of consciousness, frequency, and dimensional reality above the seventh.
99 levels. He maps an entire cosmology of human cognitive potential that extends vertically into realms of physics we cannot even measure with modern instruments.
And when you ask what lies beyond those 99 levels, Osman says it is a stage that simply cannot be conceived of.
Our current language and mundane brain capacity totally lack the conceptual framework to even picture what exists at that frequency.
Let's return to the analogy of artificial intelligence for a second.
Okay.
Imagine a two-dimensional square living on a flat piece of paper. That square can become incredibly intelligent.
Right. It can map every millimeter of the paper. It can calculate the geometry of other shapes on the paper with absolute perfection.
It is the absolute master of its dimension. But if a three-dimensional sphere passes through that paper, the square will only perceive a circle growing and shrinking.
The square cannot look up. It fundamentally lacks the dimensional capacity to understand what up even is.
AI is the square. It knows everything about the flat piece of paper of our digitized data.
And yoga science is the human ability to look up.
Exactly. It is the capacity to step off the paper, observe the sphere, and traverse the multi-dimensional space above it.
Which fundamentally changes how we should view the current panic surrounding artificial intelligence.
Society is paralyzed by the fear that AI will eventually outsmart us and render human intelligence obsolete.
We are terrified that the square is going to become a better square than us.
Yes. But Osman's teachings suggest we are agonizing over a game played on a single, isolated frequency.
Our true evolutionary advantage doesn't lie in outcalculating a machine on a flat piece of paper.
It lies in shifting the dial to frequencies that the machine doesn't even know exist. Human elevation will always supersede machine calculation.
If we look back at the sheer ground we have covered today, the contrast is astonishing.
We started with a highly relatable, almost mundane image. A frustrated blind man trying to bypass a software glitch on a smartphone screen.
And by pulling on that single thread, we ended up traversing the 99 levels of dimensional consciousness that exist beyond the seventh chakra.
It perfectly encapsulates the yogic worldview. The deepest truths of the universe are embedded in the most practical aspects of our daily lives.
Provided we have the eyes, or, well, the third eye to see them.
But the philosophy is completely hollow if it remains theoretical. Osman's mission is driven by practical application.
Knowledge is only valuable when you use it.
Precisely. Whether that means dedicating 20 minutes a day to a specific meditative practice to gradually shift your cognitive processing.
Or simply facing your next technological hurdle by rejecting the machine's rigid logic and looking for a human third option.
And as always, remember that while these methods are incredibly powerful tools for restoring natural energy and boosting your biological immunity, they are complementary.
They do not replace the vital role of your licensed medical professionals. They work with your biology, not against it.
The physical and spiritual hardware for boundless intelligence is already inside you. The ancient sciences are merely the user manual for turning it on.
So if you take nothing else away from Osman's worldview today, I really want to leave you with a final provocative thought to turn over in your mind.
Every day, we pour billions of dollars, unimaginable amounts of electricity, and massive infrastructural resources into training artificial intelligence to mimic human intuition.
We are desperately trying to teach a machine to think outside the box.
But if the yogic sciences are accurate, if your mind already possesses limitless memory and unrestricted access to higher dimensions of reality, are we making a catastrophic miscalculation?
Are we outsourcing our cognitive evolution to a silicon construct that is biologically and dimensionally incapable of taking the next step?
Think about it. Instead of continually upgrading our servers, maybe it is finally time we focus on upgrading ourselves.